Can anyone stop the Florida Gators? Vanderbilt's going to give it a shot.
This is Locked On Bets, the daily betting show that means business from the Locked On Podcast Network. Hosted by Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers, they're dropping fearless picks with an inside edge to put money in your pocket. If there's action, they've got the lock. This is where smart bets start. It's Locked On Bets.
Welcome to the Saturday edition of Locked On Bets. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports with you. And as always, we appreciate you making Locked On Bets your first listen of the day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We have a couple afternoon basketball games to go over. Also, UFC Fight Night as well. Several championships later on tonight. And then you have a couple on Sunday before Selection Sunday. So let's get right to it, Lee. In the SEC, the defending champion Florida Gators, they look unstoppable right now. Will it continue against Vanderbilt?
Open it, open it, open it! Lee has the key to the lock of the day.
Say one sidebar that it was interesting that Florida beat Kentucky 3 times this year and didn't trail for 1 second in any of those games. That's amazing. And Florida knocked out Kentucky in the quarterfinals. Now they get Vanderbilt, who beat Tennessee. So Gators, Commodores, Lee, what do you like in this one?
Yeah, so Florida, early in the season, November, December, they did not look good. I mean, I thought they'll be lucky to be a 4 or 5 seed. Even in conference play, first couple weeks didn't look great. They went to Vanderbilt January 17th and looked okay, decent, 198-94. But now it's going to be a little bit tougher for Vandy because this Florida team has really started to gel. The 2 guys they got, the transfers, backcourt, have really picked it up. They're outside shooting. It's like this team, they look almost as good as last year. They are scary good and they're tall and they are athletic. And that's one thing that Vanderbilt doesn't have. They're not tall. Their starting front court, just 6'7" and 6'7". Florida's front court, their small forward goes 6'10". And it's tough to beat players, and to get to the rim, get easy baskets when you're that long and you defend the basket that well. And their outside shooting has picked it up here. In the first game, they out-rebounded Vanderbilt 36-22. Think that will continue here. Also shot 30-22 free throws. That should continue. Vanderbilt only had 4 turnovers in that game. The defense for Florida has really picked up since that time. So I'm going to lay the 6.5 points here. We've seen some upsets, but I think also playing into this game, Vanderbilt's season was beating Tennessee yesterday. Beating Tennessee, these guys that made their season. They're in the tournament. They'll play loose. They were just done at the end. I mean, one of their key players ended up cramping at the end of the game, missing the last minute. So this Florida team's built to play teams like this. I like Florida. I'm laying the 6.5. It's going to be a level 3 lock.
And also remember, Vandy beat Tennessee twice in the last week or so. They beat him towards the end of the season and beat him in the SEC tournament. So a couple big games for them. And now see if they can knock off Florida. But the Gators, like you said, Lee, in SEC play, it's just amazing what they've done. Look like a different team than they were in non-conference play. We ended up going 1-2 on our Friday picks. We won with Toledo as UMass hung for a bit in that game after their upset of Miami of Ohio. But Toledo ended up pulling away in that game to advance to the MAC championship. But when you look at the other 2 games that we lost, one of them in the SEC, got to give Ole Miss a lot of credit that they were up pretty much that whole game against Alabama. Alabama made it interesting towards the end, but Chris Beard's now taken the Rebels to the semifinals, which is pretty amazing considering there were, a 15 seed going in.
Yeah. All Ole Miss athletics used to be terrible. Football, basketball, baseball has probably been the best, and they're really consistent too. So Chris Beard, always thought he was a good coach. His tenure at Florida didn't end well. I think he had a domestic dispute. It didn't end well at all, but it shows you good coach. And I like coaches who, as the season progresses, their team gets better. And that's what it's all about. It's not how you start. It's how you end up. And this Ole Miss team is a dangerous team.
Yeah, Chris Beard spent that one season at Texas, and after being at Texas Tech, and took them to the Final Four. And now he's trying to revive Ole Miss. It's kind of funny. This is like the Lane Kiffin effect, Lee. That Lane Kiffin leaves Ole Miss, the football team almost goes to the national championship, and the basketball team almost goes to the SEC championship. So he's the guy that's been the tie to it, and we'll see what he does at LSU. He probably may fall in his face there, but Ole Miss has done well. So that's going on in the SEC. Pretty interesting. And again, a couple more championships coming up tonight. But we have our second semifinal game. We're going to look at the Atlantic 10 with Dayton and St. Louis for our blowout special.
Oh, boy. Last one out, turn off the lights. This one's a blowout.
Dayton, they held off St. Bonaventure in a game that went back and forth in the second half. Dayton went up by 6. St. Bonaventure made it close, but then Dayton ended up winning by 5 to advance here to the semifinals against St. Louis, who was down 21 to George Washington, and ended up winning by 7. So outscoring GW by 28 the rest of the way late in the first half and then in the second half. So St. Louis ended up pulling away in that game. We're going to take St. Louis here, laying 6 against Dayton. It's interesting in the two matchups this year, two completely different results with these two games. St. Louis won the first one at home 102-71, then lost at Dayton 77-62. So they were great in one, terrible in the other. From an effective field goal percentage standpoint, they had their second best game against Dayton the first time around, had their worst game the second time around. So you kind of wonder which is going to be the one that's going to come up this time. Now, Dayton, Dayton has won 3 straight games in the underdog role, but I do think here that St. Louis will end up pulling away here after they survived their scare against George Washington. I'm going to go with the St. Louis Billikens here. Josh Church just signed this big extension. He's going to stay at St. Louis. You don't have to worry about him leaving. I think that they want to get that Atlantic 10 automatic bid, even though they'll be in the tournament anyway, but just to get that automatic bid, win the championship. First step is to beat Dayton and then potentially play VCU in the championship on Sunday. Let's take St. Louis here, lay the points with them against Dayton for our college basketball blowout special.
Yeah, they might have just found themselves, St. Louis. They were trailing almost the entire game against George Washington. In fact, they almost put out that game plus, I think they were 7.5 and lost by 8. That was a crazy game. I think that George Washington had the cover the entire game except for the last second. Fouled the guy with 1 second to go, and he hit both free throws. So sometimes the games you don't put up or bet, that sometimes are your best decisions. So St. Louis last 4 or 5 minutes looked really good in that game. So they're good. I always thought they were a really good team. They're starting to come together. They just started really slowly, and probably one of the luckiest covers you'll see in college basketball, to trail for the entire game until the last second of the game and hit both free throws and pull out a half point cover.
And also one other note on that second game against Dayton. Before that, they had beat VCU in a huge game between the top two teams, the Atlantic 10. So maybe a letdown in that second game. So we'll see what happens in this game coming up this afternoon. Coming up, we will shift gears to UFC Fight Night in Las Vegas, and we'll isolate one of those fights coming up. You are listening to the Saturday edition of Locked On Bets. Let's talk now about FanDuel. And, of course, March is here, so it's always a fun time. College basketball nonstop. Got a lot of big games today with some conference semifinals, some conference championships. You have big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single day and night, from early tip-offs to those late-night games. There's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Here's the cool thing. You can build any college hoops parlay you want. You do it with spreads, totals, player props, however you want to do it. And you're the one that builds it. You're responsible for it. You do it and see what you can do. Then apply the profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. And again, so many choices. ACC championship, Big East championship, the semifinals in the SEC, the Big Ten, some of the other mid-majors playing their conference championships as well. So a lot of different choices you have. You can go safe, you can go bold, whichever way you want to do it. It's your parlay, your style, now with more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Play your game. We continue Locked On Bets here on a Saturday. Kevin Rogers and Lee Sterling of Paramount Sports. Talked some college basketball earlier. Now let's get to UFC Fight Night in Vegas. And time now for our wrong, I can't even say team or fighter here, but you'll explain it, Lee. Favorite.
What the fuck? WTF.
So, Lee, you are looking at the flyweight battle between Charles Johnson, not the former Marlins catcher, but Charles Johnson and Bruno Silva. And you're not going to go with one of these fighters. Instead, you're going to look at the rounds.
Yeah. So here's a little situation. There's two Bruno Silvas. A lot of people look up Bruno Silva and they see a guy that fights a much higher weight class. These are two flyweights, 125 pounds. And I'm even going to pull a head fake on you here. We're not going to do a wrong fighter favorite. I'm going to do a bet a little, win a lot, because I think there's a better way to take and look at this fight here. So Charles Johnson's a 180 favorite. Should he win? Maybe. Bruno Silva, plus 145. Got a shot, got a puncher's chance. Bruno Silva, his last 7 fights have ended inside the decision. This guy, and we're not talking about submissions. He just likes to stand in the center and throw a few kicks, but he's thrown less kicks and gone for less takedowns as he's gotten older. He's 35. Charles Johnson's 35. These two guys are never going to fight for the title. Charles Johnson, 3 of his last 5 fights have gone inside the distance. So I think it's a better way to approach this fight. These two guys are going to just stand there. They both have power. I've even seen Bruno Silva trailing in a fight to Cody Durden, getting beat up and landed that one punch. So both of these guys have one punch knockout power. I'm going to say this fight ends inside 2.5 rounds. So under 2.5 rounds, plus 140. Throwing a little head fake on you here, Kevin. Bet a little, win a whole lot.
All right. And you also have another UFC fight from Friday's show. If you want to check that one out, go to our YouTube channel, Locked On Bets, to find out Lee's selection on that. So with that being said, UFC, big card tonight, UFC Fight Night. Of course, college basketball. We're going to find out the brackets coming up on Sunday. So what's going on with Paramount Sports with everything going on here in mid-March?
Well, we do a lot. We do a lot of sports, and it keeps me busy. I got a couple. I got an email and a DM this week. One person asking me if I do F1 racing, and I watch it some, but no, I don't feel proficient enough to do it. Maybe down the line. I've been looking at maybe a couple different people to do it for me. So just not yet. Maybe next season or later this year. Also, UFL, the Spring League. Did it for quite a few years. Last year, just stopped doing it. There wasn't the interest. I also don't think there was the edge. So a lot of really bad players not going to play at the next level. So, it's above college, but not much. So 8 teams, I'm not interested. So leave both those sports behind us for now and not try to tackle them. Just try to do what I do best. You want to get college March Madness. We're on a roll here. Only lost 1 game. That's right, 1 game for our clients the last 3 days. So hit another big 35-unit play yesterday. Radar plays from 10 to 50 units. Entire March Madness, 197, ParamountSports.com, or 5 UFC fights, including a 40 to 50 unit max wager, $25. And I'm so sure we're going to produce a winning card for you. We don't have a winning card. You'll get next week's UFC card for free. So I'm backing it up. I'm so sure I'm going to win just $25 for 5 fights, and 4 of those 5 fights are underdogs. How do you get it? ParamountSports.com or call 800-400-9741.
And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Locked On Bets, as well as the podcast version you could find on Spotify or Apple. Just type in Locked On Bets. You'll be all set. We'll be back with you coming up on Monday. We'll know the brackets, so we'll go over that and look ahead to a big week next week for the first round of the NCAA tournament. For Lee Sterling, I am Kevin Rogers. Thank you so much for tuning in to this edition of Locked On Bets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.